Sorry.
Hi, I'm Kristy, and this is my husband Josh. And this is our first YouTube video, so it might be a little rough. Bear with us. Josh was diagnosed with oligodendroglioma in December of 2024, technically January. We're just going to give our backstory, and our intention and our goal with this YouTube channel is to
Make money.
no filter these days. Our goal and our intention with this YouTube channel is to educate those who may not know what we're going through, like our family members, our friends, our day-to-day struggles, both from Josh's end and from my end, because they're both very different ends of the spectrum. Also, because when we were going through all of the healthcare situations with Josh, we were kind of going in blind. We've never dealt with anything this serious before, and brain cancer is pretty serious. So we want to provide resources for those who may be going through the same or similar thing as us, and just providing a wealth of knowledge of everything that we've learned, everything that we've gained. So hopefully it helps someone out there. December 15th, Josh and I were at home making dinner, and I'm sitting on the couch. He gets up to go stir the pasta. Chili. And I see out of the corner of my eye him fly backwards and hit his head on the countertop. So I rush over to him. He's bleeding pretty heavily from the back of his head from where he hit it. And I notice that he's very visibly having a seizure. So I call 911 immediately. They're walking me through what to do when a person is having a seizure. And I also was thinking that he was having some complications because he hit his head. I thought maybe he hit his head and that's what prompted the seizure. So the operator's walking me through what to do. She told me to keep him on the ground. She told me to make sure there was something soft under his head so he didn't damage anything further. He wakes up and he hears sirens. The ambulance wasn't there already. It was sirens for somebody else. So he's coming out of his seizure. He's confused. He's asking me, like, are those sirens for me? Please don't call an ambulance. I'm okay. And he starts to get up. I'm still on the phone with the operator, obviously. I asked her what to do, and she said, make sure that he doesn't get up. So he's getting up. He's a tall guy. He's like 6'2". So I'm trying to stop him while also trying to remain on the phone. He gets up and starts clumsily walking to our bathroom. He ends up falling in there. He hit his head slightly again in there, starts having a second seizure. I'm trying to keep him down, making sure that he knows that I'm there, that I'm with him, that he's safe. He comes out of the second seizure, and by that point, the ambulance was starting to arrive. So the operator was saying that they were in our building. I went out into the hallway to make sure that they knew which apartment to come to. Josh is still on the ground. I come back in to make sure that he's still on the ground, and he's starting to get up again. He's waking up. The emergency team bombards our apartment. There was like 10 people who came in here, which was wild. They get him on a gurney because he's starting to get up again. They get him on the gurney. He starts having a third seizure, and that's when he stopped breathing. So they had to put, a whole face mask on you? He doesn't remember, obviously. But they're asking me where to take him, what hospital to take him to, and I'm just beside myself because something is obviously very wrong. Pro tip now, in case of emergencies like this, make sure that you have a hospital close by to wherever you are, whether that's where you're living, whether that's where you're vacationing, just because in-network really does make a difference if you do have health insurance. Had I known that then, it would have been played out differently. But I just said, take him to the closest hospital, get him the attention that he needs. So they took him to Denver Health. In the meantime, I called his best friend, Clayton, who is like our family member here. I told him, sobbing, which he was probably scared out of his mind, to meet me at Denver Health because something had happened to Josh. So the two of us get there. We're sitting in the waiting room for probably close to 3.5 hours. Finally, they let us into the ICU where Josh is. They told us to be prepared because he was intubated. He had tubes and everything. He was unconscious. We walk in, he looks like a science project, so that made me just lose it even more. Fast forward, the doctors come in and they say that they did a CT scan and they found a clementine-sized tumor.
You don't have a brain.
They found a clementine-sized tumor on the right side of his frontal lobe, and it was pressing up against the middle of his skull. That pressure is essentially what caused the seizures, and they told us that they needed to remove it as soon as they could because he was at risk for continuing to have seizures had it not been removed. We didn't know this at the time, but his type of brain tumor, oligodendroglioma, there's no other signs that you have this type of tumor other than having a seizure. And in Josh's case, this tumor, this clementine-sized tumor, was growing for what the doctors believe was close to 10 years. So he has this growing tumor in his brain for 10 years, has no idea, goes about his life. He's 34 years old. All of a sudden, one night, it just decides to have a seizure. So that's how we found out that Josh had a brain tumor, and they scheduled surgery for 5 days later on December 20th, 2024. So this next part Josh can weigh in on because he was kind of awake and aware of it.
No, I just woke up at like 6. Still had like the neck brace thing on and the breathing tube in it. I could feel that part. I mean, there's lots of drugs involved, obviously. So yeah, they came in pretty quick with like what was kind of reminds me of like a pee pad for like dogs. They put it on my chest off, whatever, and like kind of felt like, I mean, it felt like they, ripped it out. I'm sure they didn't rip it out, but at least it felt that, which is not a fun like experience. But again, drugs. So, and then they like take my phone out of like an evidence bag, at least it looked like that, and like kind of just gave it to me. I don't think I was supposed to be like awake yet. They told Kristy to come back at like 9. And they kind of gave me my phone like carte blanche, which was a little weird. Where it's like I could have called like, I don't know, my lawyer or something. And I texted Kristy, and I got the text through that like I was awake.
The text said, "I'm awake."
I didn't know like what was going on. I just knew that it was obviously not good. I didn't know who was involved. I didn't know if everyone was like there yet. I don't really remember like what happened like leading up to that point. Kristy came in at like 9.
Yeah, so I got there at 9 a.m. because that's when the nurses told me to come back, and came into the ICU to see Josh. He was very emotional and very confused about what happened. Drugs. And so I kind of had to recount the details without being too graphic to him because what I had witnessed the night prior was the stuff that they make horror movies out of. We love horror movies, but I would really prefer that if we didn't experience them in real life.
I just like remember like family and friends like getting there, and like having that interaction, and like everything kind of like leading up to like the MRI, and like being told like at that point it was like brain mass. That nobody was really using like the tumor word fully until the MRI. I remember like having the MRI, and then I remember being told that it was like a brain tumor, but not associating like brain tumor with cancer. I don't think. It was very much presented like this needs to come out, and like then kind of all, not all as well, but kind of like that's step 1. You don't need to worry about anything else right now, which I don't think I did. But then like things started clicking afterwards. Remember that the surgery got like pushed back like a couple days. And I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel like in pain or anything. It was just like everything leading up to there. I think I was in pretty good spirits leading up to that point.
You were in pretty great spirits leading up to the surgery because I think at that point we were both thinking, oh, we removed this thing and then we're good. We're done. But there was a lot more that went into it.
If I could compare it to anything, it was like kind of like being in like a movie series of something, and like, I was just kind of a character in it. And I don't think I was fully digesting like the gravity of the situation. I was just kind of dealing with like step by step, which was partially like, what am I going to eat that day? And then the surgery looming. But the gravity that it was like brain surgery wasn't really like clicking. But I remember going into like the surgery stuff and like the questions they ask you about like organ donation things and like signing off on like blood transfusion stuff and like all these like little technicalities of stuff that they just want clarification on.
He finally had surgery on December 20th. And leading up to it, like I said, he was feeling pretty pretty great. His neurosurgeon did tell us that Josh probably would have left side weakness on the entire left side of his body post surgery because the area that the tumor was was very close to the areas that provide motor functions. And they would try to get as much out as they could without paralyzing him for the rest of his life. Surgery starts.
Well, and I'm like, cool.
He's
Like,
cool as a cucumber. He's getting wheeled down there. I forgot to mention that both sets of our parents flew out immediately. They're on the East Coast, so they flew out on the next flights possible to be here for both of us. So surgery starts. My parents, Josh's parents, and me, we all go to a family friend's condo nearby to Denver Health, so we were less than a mile away. Because they told us that the surgery was going to take anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours. So rather than sitting at the hospital, we decided to go down the street.
just to note, like before the surgery off, whichever is like, I mean, every single like friend, client, colleague, like anybody that I'd probably text more than once a week like came and stopped by, which was like like huge for us. I think is very like I don't know, made things like a little bit normal, but like even my like food reps and like just the amount of support that came with it was like I don't know, that kind of spoke to this, not the severity of things, but like they came out of the woodwork in certain scenarios, but like that's such a great like support thing during that type of time frame that kind of takes you out of the moment. It just displayed like how much like help is actually there. So like if you are in that type of scenario where it's like I know it's hard to sometimes like ask for help, but like in those situations, that kind of like what friends are there for.
Yeah, and they show up.
Yeah.
Along with our parents. I don't think I gave them enough credit either. But our parents were out there for 2.5 weeks, staying with us, making sure that everything was okay. But yeah, like Josh said, the amount of calls, texts, emails, Instagram messages, letters, stop-bys, food that was sent to us. We felt overwhelmingly grateful for all of the support that we had during quite literally the most difficult and stressful and awful time of our lives. So
I don't remember all of it.
Drugs. Post surgery, it went very well. I got text messages with updates through the entire 3 hours that it took to remove the tumor. My parents, his parents, and I go back to the hospital. It took a little while for him to wake up, get out of the anesthesia. So we waited at the hospital for probably another hour before we were able to see him. We go in. The second that you saw us, you were very emotional. Also, I mean, he just had brain surgery and also was on a ton of drugs. So when he saw us, he was crying. You were really happy to see us, but you were in a lot of pain as well. So
yeah, from the catheter.
Yeah. So he wakes up, and fast forward from surgery, as his neurosurgeon had said, he wasn't able to move his left arm, the left side of his body at really at all at this point.
Mm-mm.
And we were told that'll come back. It's going to take, a lot of hard work, a lot of PT, and a lot of just his brain reconnecting, because you're not really supposed to mess around with your brain at all. So when you scramble those signals, it does take a long time for those neurons to reconnect.
I mean, there wasn't that much pain necessarily. I think out of it, but I don't really remember that point of it. Like being alone at night was hard because like that you're not, I don't know, not accustomed to that being a thing, even not in that situation. So I made it very clear, like in regards to like the pain medication, like the the opioids,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like the opioids were like, I made it clear where it's like I only want I wanted like the minimum amount of that as possible. to be able to like switch to Tylenol or switch to something not as aggressive. You know, I made that clear. So I knew that all the drugs that I was being provided and that stuff was this slippery slope.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're in that type of situation, it's like pretty much like when you say, "Oh, I have pain," you're kind of provided X pretty quickly. And I just remember the time frame between, you know, they kept saying where it's just like, yeah, the healing part, and then I'm going to get transferred to this like acute like rehab hospital for like the recovery on my left side, just like recovery from the surgery in general. That ended up getting pushed back too, so I had to spend Christmas in the ICU. I mean, that's when they started using the words like brain tumor and stuff. And again, the association with like brain cancer didn't really like click until like 3 days after. My two closest friends in like high school had cancer, so it started clicking. I think like 4 days after that, like, oh, like the surgery where it's just like, but that's not how. You know, I knew that that's not how cancer worked, but like it dawned on me where it's like I knew that that's not how that works, and like this is not going to be as simple as like recovering my left side and like then it's over. I knew that whatever normal proceeds after this would never be the normal as it was before this. Don't Google anything, because like it doesn't necessarily pertain to you, type of thing. Where it's like you Google like brain tumor,
Not good.
that will not be a good route. But like it's very specific to the type of cancer, and like you really can't speak on anything until like the pathology comes back. But I also don't blame anybody for wanting to know, because it's like I understand the stress that comes from waiting that amount. Just again to reiterate, where it's like Kristy, what she had to deal with and what I think my family and friends had to deal with during that time frame is vastly different than like what I had to deal with. And I think they were two different struggles and like challenges, where it's like I think my challenge was just like processing everything, being in that moment and being, you know, you're trying to like catch up, I guess. Like it was like whatever, three or 4 days after the surgery, and I'm still processing like waking up in the hospital. That's where you like really have to like ask for help, I think. Advocate for what you want. Like it's every single emotion all at once. Where it's like you can be asked how you're doing in 15-minute section, and like the next 15 minutes you could feel completely different. It is a challenge and it is hard, to kind of even articulate how you feel or even convey it, because you don't know what type of help that you need, because you don't know what type of situation you're in. So it's just a lot. But like it doesn't mean that you have to go through it with fear, I guess. Just focus on like what you need to do to like get through that day or hour. It's so easy to go down the rabbit hole, and it's very easy to like bring anxiety that's self-induced. I've been lucky enough to like be in very stressful situations with what I do for work. That's what I, prided myself on, being able to like create, I guess, calm out a very like chaotic situation. But I can easily see like being in that scenario and not being able to handle that is like a very hard situation kind of like be in. And it's also okay to not to ask questions. You can advocate for it's like what do you need to know today, and like what's going to serve you today. Versus, I know that being in a serious situation, some people may want to be like, I want to know everything right now, so that you can process it as quickly. If you don't need to know, or if you don't want to know, where it's just like it's okay to tell your doctor of like, just tell me what I need to know to do what I need to do today, or deal with the other stuff on a different day, as long as you kind of like deal with it. But my whole thing was like, just tell me what I need to do. I don't need to know like how much of the cancer that they got. I don't need to know like, oh, is it cancer? I don't need to know the odds. I just wanted to know like, what do I need to do this week? But like up until that pathology point, it's like there's nothing you can really do. Sitting there and like freaking out about what it could be is challenging, but just focus on what you need to get done. But so like I'm in the acute hospital off that stuff, and I'm still processing, where it's like 3.5 monumental things just happened. Like these seizures that I've never had before, the you know the brain surgery part, and then like this left side weakness where I can't move the left side of my body have now happened. So it's like these three like huge things, and then like there's this half part of like this looming thing of like this pathology based around what they took out, fair well knowing that it's cancer. I don't know the full information on it yet. So it's three really big things happening within this very small short period of time that like I have to figure out how to like process. And to this day I still have not, I don't think, processed all of it, because like they just want you to like immediately snap into like oh, getting your quality of life back. It's just a lot to, you kind of just want like a breather, but that's okay to like ask for, I think. While in the meantime, I'm waiting for this pathology that's going to like dictate the next like 10 years of my life. You want me to figure out how to walk to the end of this hallway with a cane on my own, but like I'm waiting for this thing that's going to be a huge impact on my life. It was very hard to focus on that as much as they wanted me to, while I was very much focused on this pathology.
Yeah, so the pathology they sent off to figure out what exactly the tumor was, because we didn't know if it was cancer or not. I think as we move forward with these videos, this first one was meant to be the timeline as well as Josh's point of view on how he was feeling about everything that was going on. This all happened 4 months ago, so it's now the end of April. And we're storytelling through these videos, and like I said in the beginning, in order to help people, in order to provide an outlet for ourselves, because there is, even though Josh has a mental therapist, we have a couples therapist, there is a lot to unpack and a lot to work through. So I think it's beneficial to share our story, and if just one person connects with it, I think that we would feel good about that, because we wish that we had a resource like this when we were going through it, and we still are going through it, but
And I'm way funnier.
you'll see in our next videos, Josh is pretty sarcastic, pretty funny, and we do have to maintain somewhat of a sense of humor around all of this now that we're kind of in the middle of the marathon, just because if we don't, we'll go crazy.
And I also think that like there's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of it, but kind of leans either way, where it's like these montage videos of like, I don't know, crushing it, or like, these positive montage videos, and then there's other things like showing the raw and gritty side. I think this is kind of like a rare circumstance where it's like this cancer element, there's this epileptic element, there's like this left side weakness element, while also like the things that have nothing to do with the medical aspect of this, which is, I think the position that we were at career wise and in our lives, that I think creates a kind of a unique situation for us, that may be helpful. But like, yeah, some of it's going to be like positive. Other things are kind of showing the nitty gritty, but like also how it just applies to like life.
I think if you're looking for videos that radiate positivity and tell you to keep on going and you can do it, this probably isn't your video.
I mean, there's positive to it, but
Well,
it's not,
there's
that's
positive.
not the only thing.
This isn't, we don't focus just on that. We focus on the realness of it. And that is saying a lot of times, hey, this sucks real bad. But thanks for joining us and watching our video, or not. And we will see you next time. Bye.